When I retired in August of 2017 and unretired in September of 2017, I wanted to polish my skills in wills and estates because I considered that if I'm going to be marketing myself to a local clientele, probably private, not corporate clientele, this is a skill I needed to be totally 100% on. So I signed up for this Osgood Hall intensive program in wills and estates. The tuition was like $3,000, which is not small change, and it was totally online, except for one day when all the students turned up for a complete seminar and testing session. It was really cool. It was a good thing, and it was worth the $3,000, no question. This is a photograph of me in the library of the condominium on Concord Place, where Barbara and I lived for about 5 years. These are the robes I wore when I was called to the bar, and I wanted to get a picture of them because I had no other pictures of me in court robes. As I was donating them to the Law Society of Upper Canada, now called the Law Society of Ontario. I contacted them and asked, how could I find a newly graduating student being called to the bar who needed a set of robes because I'd be happy to give them away. And they said, nah, they didn't have that kind of facility, but they were developing a store of robes and so forth for the call to the bar ceremony that they were going to be eventually offering to students. So I hopped in and I donated my robes, I think in April of 2017. I had to repurchase the whole set. I have yet to wear the new set in court, but I do have them. 1975 and 2017. This would have been the second passport I ever had. I don't know where the first one went. It's unfortunate it is lost. But maybe at that time you had to turn in your previous passport before they'd issue you a new one, and they didn't return the old one. I'm not sure. Anyway, I don't have one. But this is the first one that I have had that I have copies of, and it was issued in 1993. I would have been 43 years old. Page 7 is a stamp from the island of St. Martin. I went there after a long OMB hearing in February of 1998. A week by myself. I just stayed in a hotel, small hotel on the French side of the island. I was just trying to wind down. I had a good week. It was all fine. So on page 9 we have some stamps, Hong Kong and Bangkok. I went to Thailand in 95 by myself for about, I don't know, I think 8 days, something in that order. Again, just to wind down, amongst other things, I went to Chiang Mai, stayed at a country club there that was associated with the Mandarin Club of Toronto. It was an interesting tourist trip. I see at the bottom of page 9 a stamp from St. Kitts and Nevis in 1995. I went there a few times with a partner, also with Barbara. And on the left, a couple of stamps from the Dominican Republic. That would have been with the family, I expect. We went to Jack Tar Village there 1 year. This stamp marks my travel to London, England, to write the bar examinations for the Law Society of England and Wales. That was a whirlwind trip. I don't know what day of the week it was, but let's say I left on a Tuesday, arrived in the very early morning London time. Couldn't occupy my room because it was before that time when the hotel lets you do it, and I slept on a couch for a number of hours. The following day, well, and then I scouted out the area, did some more study. The following day, I wrote the exam, and then I did some other stuff. I went down to Trafalgar Square and poked around. And then the following morning, in London time, I took a bus to Heathrow, back to Canada. I'm not sure what this is for, but my guess is that I was traveling through New York City on to somewhere. So this was the national branding for passports back in that day. This passport was issued in 1999. I would have been 49 at this point in time and getting a little chubby. These stamps mark two occasions for me. One was a trip to Singapore, arrived March 14th and left on March 17th. I was engaged by a Toronto developer to be part of a marketing team that flew over to Singapore, made presentations to Singapore residents, inviting a purchase of condominium units in a new development they were doing at the corner of Bay Street and Cumberland. I was to be the independent solicitor to ease these people into the realm of purchasing foreign property, to put their minds at ease and so forth. It was a really good gig. I was not paid to travel there, but all my expenses were covered, so I flew over, flew back, stayed in a very nice hotel in which the presentations were being made, and garnered, I think it was half a dozen people that purchased units and engaged me to do the closings. So it was fun. The other memory this brings back is a trip to St. Martin. Apparently, according to date stamp, July 25, 2000. I went with Barbara. We rented a villa on the French side of the island, just above what I believe is called Oyster Bay. It was a gorgeous unit that we'd rented. The villa consisted of a main villa, which is used only by the owner's family, and a guest wing, which is connected to the main unit by a covered walkway, open air walkway, which was 2 stories. The bedroom was in the top story, and an open kitchen on the ground floor with a living room and so forth, and wraparound windows overlooking Oyster Bay and the Caribbean. Lovely place. We were burgled twice. On one occasion, money was stolen. On the other occasion, my laptop was stolen. And the other interesting incident was I was in my rental car, rear-ended by a school bus while stopped in a queue waiting for a light to change. Suffice to say, we got to know the local constabulary pretty well, and we were just treated beautifully, so I have no complaints. In 2001, David, my son, and I took a trip to Southeast Asia. We flew initially to Bangkok, stayed there for 6 days, just sightseeing, usual tourist stuff in Bangkok. Then we flew to Singapore. I met up with the clients that had engaged me the previous year to act on their purchase transactions. And then we flew to Hong Kong and met up with an old friend, client of mine who owns a pharmaceutical company in Hong Kong, and he took us to the restaurant on Victoria Island, or on Hong Kong Island, called Victoria's Peak, for a really nice dinner. It was quite interesting. This is the last passport issued to me, which has expired. I have another which I haven't used, and it's good for until 2029, I think. All of these stamps relate to a trip Barbara and I took to Thailand and thence on to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia to attend a wedding reception for the daughter of a friend of ours in the Asian community in Toronto. We stayed, the whole trip took about 10 days. We stayed, or perhaps longer, we stayed a number of days in Phuket on, I think, Caron Beach. We were away from the water in a gorgeous low-rise hotel room, single story, but we had our own lap pool with a waterfall you could turn on and off with a switch. There was an open-air kitchen. You could have people come in to cook your food, or you could go to the hotel restaurant and eat there. It had an outdoor hot tub, wooden tub that you could have a bath in, and an outdoor shower as well as a regular indoor shower. They kept a mini bar stocked with beer and so forth. It was a great time. Anyway, we flew to, at the time there was some civil unrest in Thailand, and it looked worrisome as if we could make our connecting flight from Phuket to Kuala Lumpur. But fortunately, it cleared up on the day of our flight, and we did fly to Kuala Lumpur, stayed at the Shangri-La Hotel, flew back to Phuket, stayed 2 nights at a Marriott hotel in the north end of the island, and also visited a JW Marriott hotel, newly constructed, and they were selling timeshares. So fortunately, we got a ride to and from the airport for free, just by virtue of attending a timeshare sales pitch. We also got a lot of swag out of it. I think a bathrobe, a couple of T-shirts, a hat. I don't know. Anyway, coming back from that trip after having stayed at the Marriott, we flew to Los Angeles, and then there was a long layover, like about 10 hours. We arrived on August 22nd, 2008. Barbara and I ended up basically hanging around, sleeping around in the terminal all night long. I think it was like from 10 at night or 11 at night until 7 in the morning. Nothing was open. I think there was one shop or lunch counter or snack bar that was open, and that was it.